This old thermostat runs on just 2 AA batteries, and when they die, disaster can happen. Luckily, that wasn't my house, but it could have been. When we moved in, we took ownership of this rat's nest, but I guess it's up to me to try to upgrade it and make it into something smart and usable. So the house was built in the 70s. We all know that that means that it was probably built with a few beers in the guy's system. It's gonna be an adventure for us to figure out what's actually going on with this. For starters, we've got the old thermostat. I don't know what this is for. But it looks like I got some wires that go up to those guys up there. Now I know what these are for. And then this thermostat, I don't know if this gets power from anything up here. So we'll have to do some tracing and find out what this goes to downstairs. Now into the mechanical room in the basement, we've got power here. This I believe is just for the doorbell. I'm gonna have to figure out power there. And then if we follow that, that's gonna go up, 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 and then goes through that joist, follows this all the way around, and then it goes up through there, okay? Now we've got another wire here. This is the one that we really care about, because this goes down to our furnace here, and this is what supplies our thermostat, the R and W, to call for heat. So now that we know what these are for, and then this is what the nest is hooked up to, that's not doing anything. We might actually use this because I believe the new thermostat that I have needs 4 wires. All right, now that we've got everything kind of traced out, we know where everything comes from, where it goes, let's actually start tearing into this mess. Let's start out with this. This thermostat here, it's actually using batteries instead of using a C terminal, so getting constant power from a transformer. You have to replace these batteries. Now, this can be very dangerous in some situations. If you live in a colder climate and you're not home, I definitely recommend using a C wire. I've had it in the past, and here's a video of it, but somebody let their C batteries die. It froze the sprinkler system in their bay, and it ended up flooding out their unit. Again, something as minor as batteries can cause a lot of damage if you're not taking care of it. Some of the tools that we're gonna use a multimeter. I've got a little tech screwdriver, 2 different sizes of Moretts. We got some wire strippers. These ones have seen better days, but you know, they're great. And then just a little screwdriver. This one's electric, just for at-home stuff. We can see on this thermostat that there's 2 different terminal blocks. Got a heat pump and a conventional. Now, I'm running a furnace. I'm gonna be using the conventional. You can see here that we've got 2 wires coming out, got an R and a double. That's coming from the transformer downstairs in our furnace. Can remove the power. Let's remember W to white, R to black. And then let's take off this plate. Screws are on, take this out. And now let's take out all of these. We got everything removed, and we've got our wires kind of pulled to how we want. We've got 2 wires for power, and then I've got 2 wires for communication. Now in the manual, it says that you want to try to use a shielded wire for communication, and then it doesn't really matter for your power. Unfortunately, I don't have shielded wire. That was my multimeter. I'm gonna use 2 separate wires, and hopefully that doesn't interfere with any of the communication. So with everything pulled out, we can actually see just in here that there's some low voltage wiring. Now this low voltage wiring, it looks like it goes up to the very top here. So that's something that we'll just have to remember and figure out later when we're doing the other wiring issues. We can go on and install this. I'm gonna try to cover up these holes as much as I can. We're obviously gonna have to repaint, but it looks like I can hit a stud and hit everything right there. Let's do that really quick. Since we are up here, we may as well finish all of this before going downstairs and getting everything working. Let's connect these up. We'll do black to the negative, and then we'll do white to the positive, and then we'll do red on A. Now with those all in, we can give these a quick tighten. I've got the communication box that the tablet part upstairs actually talks to. So this part will talk to my heating system and actually does all the controlling and everything, whereas upstairs is just my interface to talk to this. But for now, I think I'm gonna put it right here. It gives me kind of access to it. I can get at it from anywhere. Let's go ahead and get that installed first. Now that we've got our box installed, now we can actually go ahead and start wiring up the wires that we ran from upstairs. We got to figure out our positive A, B. One thing that I like to do is I like to take a picture of the other thing that I'm working on. That way I don't have to keep on running up and down. You could write it down on a piece of paper, but you know, today's day and age, I like to use a photo. I use my phone. I don't actually carry around a pen and paper with me anymore. I used to back in the day. First, let's get started with this. Let's leave a little bit of extra so you guys can't really see above me, but if this is pulling it tight, I'm gonna leave like probably about an extra foot, maybe a little bit more. That way the next guy, which will be myself in a few months, has to go remove this and move it somewhere else. I'm not gonna be cursing and screaming at myself. Again, more wire, always a good thing. Cut that. We'll just give these guys a quick little score. And then open it up. We want to make sure that we're not actually damaging the wires inside. We're taking the sheathing off and then strip them back a little bit. So I can put these two. That one goes there, that one goes there. That's all done. Before we really get started with hooking up power up there, what we've got to do is figure out what's going on down here and then get power from the transformer here up to our control box. One thing I want to note is that this furnace is really old. It's actually from 1975. So this furnace is over 50 years old and still kicking it. I'm probably going to put this out in my garage when we put the new furnace in later this year. Start out, before we start cutting into anything, let's just make sure that we don't have any power. So going between our two terminals, I'm at 0 volts. I don't know if you can see that. What I'm gonna do is we're just gonna cut these guys here. And we'll strip some back. Okay, but I had to do a little bit of rewiring just to make it all work with my old ass appliance here. Now what we've got is we've got constant power going to R and we've got constant power going to C from down here. And then we've got our W1 tying into our TH on our gas valve. Now that's going to allow the gas valve to actually open when we want it to. So now let's take this and bring it up to the control panel. Now we need to take the wire from over here and bring it over here for power. So now that I've got the wiring all disassembled from the gas line, now somebody at one point went through and tried to splice something onto this 24-volt line. That's actually where I'm going to cut and use them as my terminals. White was our positive and black was our negative. So black was negative. And white was positive. Always give it just a little tug test, make sure that your wire is going to come out. And that is the basics wired. Now, until we get things like a humidifier and the new furnace in, there's not much else I can do with this. That will be coming in the summertime. Right now, we still need the furnace overnight because we're in Canada and it's cold. So it's going to be one of those things that just has to wait for now. It's April 2nd, and this is why we still need the furnace overnight. All right, now for the last fun part, the actual install, the actual tablet part. Let's get this all removed. But nice little up arrow. And this just snaps in. So now that our thermostat's actually loaded up, what we can do is go through and hit the settings and go in and start setting up some stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and do all that really quick. This rat's nest is a task for another day. So what better way to forget about it than just covering it up with a 3D printed plate? Now that we've got our thermostat all installed, it's communicating with the furnace properly when a call for heat's placed, and we've got it all hooked up to the Wi-Fi and it's operating properly. We've just got one more step really, and that's just integrating it into our Home Assistant, which is just running on our Home Lab, which we built in the last video. Once we've got our Home Assistant loaded up, we'll have to actually go into the hack store because the Lennox company hasn't actually released any official support for Home Assistant. Somebody has gone in and made an integration for us that we'll have to use. Now that we're all restarted, the Lennox system has been added. We just have to go in and actually integrate it into our system. Find the Lennox hack that we just installed. I'm gonna go with a local connection because I'm self-hosting this. You can use the Lennox servers if you want to. If you are using a firewall, just because I did test this, you are going to need to whitelist their servers just so that they can communicate properly. Add in the IP address, and then I'm going to go ahead and add all of these as well and hit submit. Edit thermostat, and then we'll drag this one way up to the top. We can access it, change things if I need to, can do a preset. Unfortunately for me right now, because of how old my furnace is, it's not going to be too much of a benefit, but moving forward, it will be. I'm really looking forward to when we get a new furnace. And that's that thermostat mess all taken care of. Upgraded to something smart and all tied into Home Assistant and the Home Lab. If you guys missed the video where I actually put together the Home Lab, you can see it right here. Thanks for watching the video, guys.